Hey y'all, Vaughn here with the Vonster vlog, and I wanted to take y'all on a quick tour around the garden before the sun sets this evening. It is, I'm not sure what day it is. I think it's like the 15th or the 16th maybe. It's mid-April and the red blood is still blooming, and that's very nice. I think it's very pretty, but I'm gonna get the camera turned around and just take you guys on a tour of the yard. So here's little Miss Callie Cat coming to hang out with us. She is doing fantastically. But I wanted to start, oh, such a good girl. We've got some flowers that need planted, but we're gonna start with the stump bed on this tour because this is, let me back up so you can see how it looks, because this is probably gonna be the last time that this is how this bed looks, because we're going to be doing some serious alterations to it, quite possibly just completely removing the stump, because I've been seeing a lot of like wasps hanging around it and I don't want anybody to build a nest inside of it. So this whole fairy garden here is probably going to get disassembled and kind of everything, all the bulbs and everything will get planted somewhere else. But starting over here, you can see the depth of the bed. Like Randy and I had gotten some petunias planted. They're just little right now, but we have some Asclepias and bee balm and sweet mint coming back in this bed. But I'm going to be planting in a bunch of like lilies and daylilies. We've got some more daylilies. We've got our tulips are fading, but right about here you can see where the depth of the bed is consistent, right where it starts branching off. We're going to continue that line down and through so that the depth of the bed is equal across, and quite possibly just completely removing the stump bed, which we'll see. Like, I really don't want to have to remove it, but we'll play it by ear and see how that goes. But that leads us, sorry for the neighbors' construction sounds, it's such a nice day today. This is a big view of the yard, so you can kind of see everything that's going on. We've got an empty rabbit tractor right here. Just some stuff leaning up against the fence. Another empty rabbit tractor right there. And we're gonna come back now, and I want to show you guys. Randy and I, put in these trellises here, and we just used conduit and these little screw tightening corner things, like it's 1/2-inch conduit, and then remesh panels, which this one hasn't been secured. The remesh hasn't been secured to the tube yet, but the way that we got them attached, because the ground here is so rocky, the way that we attached them is we attached these like 1x4s with little L brackets. Like you can really see, gosh, it was quiet when it came out, and now it's just so loud, but yeah, that's how it goes. You can see we've got these little, where my finger at? These little L brackets joining it to the bed edge, and then a little pipe fitting, down below, and then a little up higher to hold the whole trellis. And that way, it's quite sturdy, and we don't have to worry about, I was trying to like hammer some rebar down into the ground, and it would go about like 8 inches, and then it wouldn't go any further, and it would start warping, and just, our ground here is mostly rocks. That's, I think, raised beds is going to be the way to go about it. This wood contraption here that you can kind of see, that was an old raspberry trellis. That's going to get scrapped and salvaged for, probably making some roosts for the chickens. And then we have some more good growth happening over here with our spinach, radishes, and I'm starting to wonder if I did actually plant lettuce or if that's just weeds coming up. I don't remember, you guys. Like, I think I planted something, but I don't know. I'll give it like another week or two, and if it turns out to just be weeds, then I'll weed it. But the radishes are definitely coming in, and the spinach is definitely coming in. That makes me pretty happy. Then over here we have our peas. Yay, peas! And then walking onions, like the Egyptian walking onions, that have just taken over. You can see we've got so many of them just growing in between the beds and everything. We've got Kakarot over in his tractor with a bunch of stuff just stacked on top of it to give him a bit of shade. I really need to figure something out that doesn't look quite so shanty town. It's like I have a rabbit shanty town when I have all the tractors out, because none of them have proper lids. What had been the raspberry bed, coming through here, oops, I got tangled on a thing. What had been the raspberry bed is this section here, you can see. And what I mean by our ground is mostly rocks. All of these rocks were found by digging out this bed to plant the raspberries. So I wasn't joking. Like, we got lots of rocks. But we're gonna dig up the little raspberry canes that are starting to come back and transfer them over to the bed along the driveway, which will take you over to that one next. But this whole bed right here just isn't going to be here anymore, and that whole bed right there isn't going to be there anymore. And we have grand ambitions to be able to save up the money to get some wood to actually finish the pergola. It's been like 5 or 6 years, 4 to 6 years, I don't know, it's been a minute, but we were like, we need to go ahead and just finish the pergola because this needs done. And this will give us a nice little shady spot to sit. But you can see that's a raspberry plant, that's a raspberry plant, that's a raspberry plant. So I'm going to be coming through and digging up raspberry, like all just raspberry. So the bed had really gotten out of hand, because that's where we had planted them like 4 years ago, and then they just came over this way. So on over now to, so this bed is where we've traditionally had our tomatoes, but we do incorporate crop rotation. So now it is time to do raspberries, blueberries, and herbs in it. We think we're finally ready to go ahead and invest in some blueberry bushes, and so we're going to get those planted and then spread the raspberries out. The tomato cages won't be in this bed. We'll be espaliering the raspberries to the fence along the driveway. That way, hopefully they'll be a little bit more manageable. And I'm not entirely certain what's getting planted in what. And we've got 1, 2, 3, 4 more beds to get things planted into. I'll probably be doing a lot of direct sowing with like beans and cucumbers, and though I do really want to plant tomatoes and peppers this year, but transplants can be a bit expensive, and I didn't have time to start my own seedlings this year. So there's that. Now we do have some good news, and that is, I mean, it's all good news really, but it's just something that is a return on our investment, is we have little strawberry flowers blooming. So hopefully we'll have strawberries soon. And we have some like chickweed and dead nettle and something else growing in this bed. Some rock sedum right over here. You can see that'll make some pretty flowers. But for the most part, I've been trying to just, if it's not crowding the strawberries too much, I just leave it in there. Like these, this dead nettle down here with its beautiful purple blooms is just, it's not hurting anybody by being there. So instead of pulling it up as a weed, I'm leaving it in as something to attract some beneficial pollinators, hopefully. So I emptied out the, there's a chicken, the trays from the rabbits, and that's the other window that we need to get installed on the shed. It was 20 bucks on Amazon, y'all, and it opens. It's like a tempered glass playhouse window with a screen and everything, but it lets some light into the shed and lets some air circulation through. So here we have the coop. We're done renovating it. We need to tighten up after some windstorms. You can see the bird netting is really drooped on this side, but we can just come in and tighten that up a little bit more. But we're actually able to keep the chickens in the enclosure now, so that'll be really good, not just for our own garden, but for the chickens' own safety and to keep them out of the neighbor's garden, because I know that that's kind of being a bad neighbor, letting my chickens, run the neighborhood. And so yeah, you can see they don't want to go whenever it's warm weather like this. They like to nest just right there on top of the rabbits. So I'm not going to go in and bother them right now because they're going to bed. But they've got like some boards up there and they kick all the straw off. But I'm thinking about just making a little coop in there for them. But yeah, so that's the cherry tree over in the far corner. The sour cherry tree is blossoming still. Now we do have some plans for here. You can see I'm going to be salvaging the chicken wire off of these trellises that the woods rotted out on. Well, not trellises, but like they're like little temporary fence pieces that I use whenever I let the rabbits run around in the yard. But I also use them to protect stuff from the chickens. But along this whole fence here, I'm going to be putting straw bales to keep the grass down, because hopefully next year the plan is to put a perennial vegetable bed there, or perennial flowers. We'll see. We'll see. But that bed is going to be continuing from about right here, lined up with where the door is, to all the way to that corner. And then we already have established bed for a little ways there, which we do have some raspberries that need taken out. There's the wisteria that we're trying to, my mom and stepdad had planted it, but it keeps, like we actually had the neighbors complain that it keeps growing onto their house. So it's unruly for sure. But I'd love to have like grapes or something growing on the pergola, but I've learned to not plant anything too close to the property line. But then you can see the rocks kind of continue along, and then along this whole fence here, let's get a closer look. We're going to be doing more straw bales. Again, just prepping up, snagged on a stick. We have one more trellis to get the remesh for, and that's going to be going on this bed, and then this enclosure will be going over the strawberries, and we'll be salvaging out the big funky looking rectangular one later. But you can see we have a big brush pile of clippings that need burnt, and then I don't know what I'm going to do with that just yet. But yeah, along this whole length here, we're going to be doing straw bales to keep the grass and weeds down off of the fence, and quite possibly using the tomato cages that are over in this bed along the driveway. We'll be putting those tomato cages on top of the straw bales and planting like potatoes, and then like layering layering up like leaves and grass clippings or straw, like nothing too hot that it'll harm the plant, but like layering the soil and stuff up so the potato plants will grow, and then at the end of the season we could just tip the cage over and harvest. And I don't know, we'll see. It's the plan. So we'll see how that goes. Now coming around here back over to our hammock stand and burn area, I definitely need to repair some of the rocks where the chickens have been just scratching them up and everything. Like they really decimated a lot of stuff over the winter. But we have some hostas and things coming up. I need to top off the dirt over here, but I want to put more hucheras in this bed. The Japanese, didn't mean to kick the trellis. The Japanese maple is doing fantastically. Virginia creeper and ivy is just taking over this corner, and I'm trying really hard to keep it under check, but man, that stuff spreads. I'm going to be draining the pond. Let me set the tripod down so I stop tripping on it. I'm going to be draining the pond at some point this spring so that I can level it out a little bit more, as well as install a new fountain like outlet there to get the waterfall going again. And then I'm going to be planting hucheras and hostas, I think, in all of these little buckets and planters to just kind of let this become a nice lush little corner again, because the chickens had their way with every single planter. Like nothing survived except for the poison ivy and the trash tree, which I don't even know what that is. I think it just has like stickers. And we have another hosta coming up over here, and then here we have our little shady garden on the side of the house. We have a couple of hucheras that are coming back. And this is just a mess. And I wanted to just get a little bit of footage of it before we do more planting and kind of fixing, for lack of a better term. But I'd love to do some really big leafy hostas in between the edging, like, you know, kind of just to fill in that empty space there. But gosh, they're just so expensive to get like the ones with huge leaves, and also to find something that does well in a dry shade like that, because we're underneath all of these trees. So whenever they're leafed out, we do not get a ton of water down there, and I don't want to have to be watering a bunch. But yeah, so that's, but I do want to take you in for a closer look. Hey, Callie. To all the heucheras. So that little guy isn't doing too hot, but these two are doing fantastically. And I'd really like to see them, you know, double their growth this year. And, but yeah, other than that, that's the little side garden. And that's the Cali cat going forth and wreaking havoc. I'll be taking you guys around to the front yard. It's basically full of dog poop and just needs mowed really badly. But we'll get to that, and I'll show you guys on a day when there's a little bit less traffic and stuff too. That way I'm not having to holler. But yeah, this is how the garden is growing so far. We're trying really hard to stay within a low budget, in addition to actually getting stuff done, which are two very conflicting concepts. But how's your garden growing? Leave a comment down below. What do you guys think of, like, I don't know, like if you leave questions down below, I'll do a Q&A video, like where I'm answering your questions like in the video, because I hate typing on my phone. So I thought that that'd be fun though, but I wanted to know what you guys thought of that. And no seed giveaway this time, but I'm working on it. So thanks again so much for hanging out with me, and let me hear your ideas and stuff of what you've got going on and what you would do if you had a bit of land to play in, a bit of dirt to dig in. And until next time, guys, keep being awesome. Bye.